This is another episode of the Flight Ringers podcast. I'm David King. That's Dan Spottswood.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
We are professional cartoonists, and we are Legion of Superheroes experts. Oh, did you see those new superpowers things that were floating around online today? Like there's a new wave of those McFarlane new superpowers figures.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch. Like they have a shitload of them now. Like I was really surprised because I followed some link where it shows the back of the package, you know, where it has all of them. I'm like, wait a minute. Last I knew there was like 7 of them or something, but now there's like 4 or 5 tiers worth of these guys.
Wow.
I like the Brainiac, like the Silver Age one.
The one that looks like he's at a tennis club, like a preppy asshole.
Yeah.
He's got
pink
like
shirt.
the short white shorts.
But he has a weird like suction cup thing on his head.
Yeah.
I just wish they put some Legionnaires in there. I'd buy those.
Yeah, but it's always the same shit because they never, by the time any of these lines ever get to Legionnaires, they do like the first 3 and then they almost never get past that.
I mean, with superpowers, like the old days, it seemed like they started just like trying to find the coolest looking DC characters and make a figure of them.
Yeah.
I don't know who the coolest looking Legionnaire would be. Sunboy or something, maybe.
It'd probably be a later one, right? Like some of the ones that might not be our favorites are more interesting looking. The others are kind of very similar. They're characters like Gates, or I guess maybe Block.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Block might be, but he's so big.
But even he's pretty generic for a comic character. You would think in one of these zillions of reboots they would have thought, well, why do they all have to be humanoid? Like redesign the characters to look more alien.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they sort of made an effort here and there, but it was always kind of like 1 or 2 token, like Gates.
Right.
And then that newer Bendis one, they varied the body types and the colors, but they're still kind of human.
There were a couple they did more like Projectra or someone looked really different.
I don't remember even.
Like one of them looked like they were made out of crystal or something.
Huh? I don't know. I mean, there was a snake Projectra in that reboot thing.
Yeah, that was pretty weak. I mean, I was okay with it actually at first, but at some point they like tried to redesign her or something, and then she had a more humanoid form that was lizard, like a sexy lizard girl.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you probably blocked it out.
I mean, I was pretty checked out of those comics. Like I was still buying them on fumes or whatever, and I got all of them eventually, but they were really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was semi-promising at first. It just became evident after about a year that like they're just going to be doing updated versions of all these stories I've already read, and I'm always going to prefer the originals.
I mean, it wasn't even good for that though. You know what I mean? Like the writing got really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I stuck with it. I was into it. Like that was kind of like my Legion comics almost, because I started at the ground floor and was just buying them all, and there was 2 series going at the same time.
Yep.
Pretty crazy that the sales would justify that back then.
What were they thinking?
Wish I knew.
If they had stuck with that reboot would be almost as old as the original series now.
Well, yeah, it went for... Well, I mean, but even before they canceled it, right? It went for 6 years or maybe 7 years of that same kind of continuity, you know? And with 2 titles for a majority of it. Like, that's a lot of issues.
I don't know. I feel like modern kind of sci-fi stories burn through all their potential a lot faster. Like the old stories the stakes rarely got very high, but like now the stakes are always really high and they kind of use up everything they can do with it pretty quick.
Yeah, like sometimes I kind of think about how I would do a Legion comic, and like there would be like, we kid around like they should have shit where like they get mad because somebody went through the room or whatever, you know?
Right.
No, that would be part of the comic, you know, like somebody's like stole my boyfriend or
we'd almost need like a 20-year-old to write the dialogue, you know, or contribute input to it.
Yeah, you'd need to have like a kid in college to help you with it.
Right.
But yeah, to know the teen issues of today, I guess I would have to start reading
Yeah,
fucking 17 magazine on my iPad.
yeah. I don't know how much it could necessarily appeal to old guys like us, but it seems weird that things are so youth centric now. It just seems like this is a no brainer. You're making all these TV shows and movies where you're de-aging all your characters into teenagers or semi-teenagers, adding soap opera like drama to it. The Legion just seems like a perfect vessel for that because it's already that.
Yeah, I mean the problem with the Legion of Superheroes is that it is a comic book.
Yeah.
And people don't give a fuck about those.
Doesn't give a fuck about comics unless they're movies. Does this issue have small mail sack?
It had a letters page, but no Legion shit in it. It was all
Okay.
Superboy centric.
Yeah, the online version did not have it.
I know, it's so stupid. Like on the one that's all scans, the
Mhm.
boot like just put up one more file with the fucking letters page. Like they put in ads,
Yeah.
like the house ads and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No letters page. I guess it's just people don't read. And I'm not a huge reader myself, but
Mhm.
come on, letters page.
Yeah, it's a big part of it.
The letters page in this had I think the editor must have been getting sick of receiving letters like this where kids would come up with a bunch of pun kind of other Kryptonian people,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be like Superman's cousin, who he's German, his name is Pretz L or some shit like that, right? Like jokes like that
Right.
at that level. And so there was like 3 different writers where they had one letter and he said 4 different stupid things like that, and then Mort's like, oh, and the so and so also sent in some blah 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 blah,
Right.
and then there was a third batch of them, and it took up like of the like I guess probably 2 columns of the letters page, like half
Right.
of one of them was this crap. I think he just wanted to get it out of his system and
Yeah.
get it out of their systems. Like, you can't come up with better ones than these or something.
It's funny, like how clearly the further back you go, it's actual kids writing in.
Mhm.
But it's almost like those are the same audience that kept writing for the rest of the history of the series. Just got older and older.
It's got to be a hard business, I guess, to like to keep this shit fresh and
Yeah.
and just like from the era of popularity for this kind of stuff, like you're competing with TV shows,
Right.
and you cannot compete with TV shows and movies, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, that's why it's still the same people. Like there's a few hardcore people, you and me, who read comics their whole lives, and then
Right.
nobody else we know is still doing it, you know?
Yeah, but I wonder if like the lifers are more of a pain in the ass than like Weisinger was probably used to like we just cycle these guys our fans out every couple of years so you can kind of reuse the storylines over and over. But then at some point he notices people start bitching like you did this 3 years ago. And it's like, oh no, the audience isn't changing out.
Yeah.
So now we got to like try to maintain some sense of continuity, and they're not like Looney Tunes anymore, like one and done throwaway stories. They all have to like add up to something, which would be a real pain in the ass if you've been used to doing it the other way for decades.
Yeah.
And it,
I mean, they're still doing it.
yeah, it just must have been like for the older guys, that must have been, I don't know, like a culture shock or something, like so different than how they'd worked all the way up until then.
But yeah, I mean, I like the one and done. Like, even if it's the same story
Right.
from a year ago, like I don't care.
Right.
But yeah, like they have to kowtow to like these super nerd continuity guys or something.
Right.
Give them what they ask for.
You can kind of change the model and it works for a little while, but then it starts to collapse from the weight of everything. Like, so they start doing a better job of that starting around, the late 60s, early 70s. But by 86, they're having to start over. But, the 30 years previous, like, no problem. There's no complications to Superman having like 5 books for 30 years.
And it's because they just accepted that all the stuff in those books was like interchangeable. And
Right.
Yeah, they didn't have to have that continuity. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
It's weird. Like, just fans suck. They ruin everything.
You guys suck.
If you're a fan of mine, you suck. You're so dumb. Oh, speaking of fans,
Uh-oh. You get some hate mail?
no, but that guy who sent you hate mail.
Oh, you have another freak out?
No, it was after you showed me the thing that he sent to you, but then like Fantagraphics or something put out some kind of shit about ceasefire and Joe Sacco or something like that, or reprinting Palestine the book or something like that. And I think Austin English must have retweeted it, or it was via Comics Journal or something like that. And that dude came in with the same shtick, like publicly, and was like, I can't believe you guys are advocating killing my people, or whatever he says, you know? And like, I saw Austin like call him out on it, and he's like, come on, man, we've had good interactions on here before. You're taking this, you know what we're trying to say, or whatever, you know? Right. I just saw him getting into it with Austin, and I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of done with this guy, because like, you look at his tweets and there's nothing about the shit that I used to have in common with him.
Right.
That's all gone. All he does is say that. Yeah. And it's like, whatever, everybody who works in the comics industry is a coward and anti-Semites and all this shit, right? You know? And so I'm like, you know, I'm just going to unfollow this guy, because I'm done. And so my account, I've unfollowed him, and then Flightringer's account, I went and unfollowed him.
Oh, shit.
And then today, like, I reposted, you know, like, watch our video, and he's like, he commented, he's like, you unfollowed me, or something like that. Ooh. And I don't know, should I don't know if I should respond to him and be like, you know, like, I broke up with you because of that shit, you know, like, it's like personal and professional, like, attacks on all of us, you know what I mean?
Right. I would
like that's all. It's like these awful blanket things. Like, no, you called me and Dan and every other cartoonist we know anti-Semitic and all this shit, and it's like, well, why would I follow you? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like,
the reason I didn't end up responding to him ever was I realized, like, part of me wanted to defend myself, of course, but when someone's that ideologically attached like he is, there's you're never going to persuade them. All you're doing is showing them that you're someone who will react when they act that way, so they're going to keep fucking with you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was just going to tell him that all I feel attacked by all the stuff that he's posting, and I made the decision to not engage with it, you know? Like, that's why I don't follow you anymore.
Right. I feel like it sort of pisses me off, because now I don't know, I can't remember everything I've ever retweeted, but I'm never even like that hard on Israel. I'm just like killing kids. Surely that is a line too far, no matter what you believe in.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Tried and true, past and present. Killing babies is bad. Everybody accepts that, except for in this case where it's fine.
It's fucking crazy. Yeah, you'd think that would be maybe the only non-controversial, possibly bipartisan thing, but nope.
I know it. And yeah, to say we should not kill babies, we shouldn't have war.
You don't think we deserve to exist then?
I know. Okay, Superboy 125.
Here we go. You ready for this?
Got my game face on. Did you read the whole issue? I didn't. I just read the Kid Psycho part.
I flipped through them. I did not read them panel by panel.
Yeah, I did that. I kind of skimmed it. Mm-hmm. This one on the cover, it says "Dig Superboy." In this issue, he becomes as bald as Luthor.
Dig.
Luthor's in this, and he's not bald.
Oh,
like he's hanging out with Lex Luthor back when they're buddies, pre-baldness Luthor.
I didn't know that.
Is
that in the first story, the George Papp, it looks like, story?
Yeah. I think they're all by George Papp, or 2 of the 3 are Papp. But yeah, I didn't even quite. Like, this dude right here is Luthor, and he's hanging out with Lana Lang. Like, he's dating Lana, and he's nice. He's not even a supervillain, or he's not a super genius bad guy.
That's weird. I wonder if they just did that to contrast it against Superboy being the bald one. Because he is bald in quite a few of the Smallville stories, the Superboy stories.
Superboy's bald. Luther's bald.
In the Superboy comics that I have read, Lex Luthor is bald already.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this one's set further back to when he had hair. So I don't think they were doing it like a prequel and we're going to have him be a good guy with hair for X amount of years in the comic.
I know. It's strange. But I mean, yeah, I didn't read this at the beginning. Maybe it says, like, this is a story that happened 2 years ago. It seems weird. Because I don't think he's a bad guy, even in it.
Right.
Like, Superboy visits
Well, they tied
his
those
lab.
together back in the day. Like it was his losing his hair turned him evil. But like in issue 300, which is set, that came out before this, long before this, I think young Lex Luthor, might have built that robot that is old Lex Luthor, the villain they fight.
Yeah. That is something like that. For some reason, he built a robot adult of himself.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. This is inscrutable. We'd have to read it, and I'm not sure if it even explains why there's a young-haired Luthor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's brown hair. Not typically he has red hair. I think when they show him.
Was there a scene where Clark was envying Lex's locks, his luscious hair?
I don't know. Like, is that what happens when he's in the lab?
Mm-hmm. I guess not.
It's almost like he doesn't even have a part in the comic except to be the scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And then Superboy loses his hair and he has to cover.
He uses one of his robot toupees.
Right. But then he has to, he shaves a cat and uses the cat hair to make a wig.
Yeah. What does she do? She pours some chemical on the cat to make its hair fall out.
It looked like they got some hair tonic from a sideshow that's supposed to make your hair grow long.
Faster.
And she puts it on the cat, but it just gives the cat a rash.
Oh, man.
This last panel says...
he goes to some other world where his hair grows super fast.
I think he just waits for the red K to wear off.
Right. But then it says something like he went to another world where the atmosphere caused it to sprout rapidly.
Oh, yeah, they really wrapped it up. I didn't read that part. I was looking at the next part of it where it says this is the untold tale of the time Clark was bald before Lex Luthor lost his hair. I guess that implies that there's a whole lost era of Superboy history where Lex Luthor is just a normal scientist and he's cool.
Right.
And maybe they're even best friends or he's dating Lana Lang.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all been established. It's just even in Superboy, which is supposedly a flashback, that happens within flashback because he's better as his foe than his buddy.
But also he's just boring. He's just a regular guy. I guess he would serve the purpose of as the same scientist in like a Jimmy Olsen comic.
Like a Professor Hamilton type.
Yeah.
Yeah, Superman always seems to have somebody like that around. In the old George Reeves show, he always has a scientist buddy who can cook things up for him. You always get someone like Sterling Holloway to play him. It's not a set guy, like there's been 2 or 3 of them over the years, but they usually get some funny guy like Sterling Holloway to play him.
Right.
Like, I built a time machine. Don't hit that button, Jimmy.
Anyway, that's that. The second one is a Crypto comic where Crypto gets pissed at Superboy, denounces Superboy as his master, and gets adopted by like a Hollywood movie producer.
Now, this is kind of a weird Crypto. It's not I think of there's 2 Cryptos in the Silver Age. There's like the Kurt Swan one, which kind of became, I think that's the one most people think of. But at first he was much cartoonier. He had a much more expressive anthropomorphic face.
Yeah, this one's kind of in between, isn't
it?
It's just skimming it. It's kind of hard to tell what's happening here because he meets a movie star dog named Jowls, and they look identical because Crypto's going to be the stunt dog for Jowls, who's an established star. But he's such an asshole.
Of course.
Jowls is he's a male dog. He acts like a female dog. But he gets his comeuppance at the end, and Crypto goes back with Superboy. Wait, what did he? It was something absurd that made him leave. Superboy sees a hole in the road, thinks Crypto dug up the sidewalk because he finds Crypto with a bone in his mouth, but he was wrongly accused. What's weird is that Crypto gets captured by the dog catcher, but he never uses the super strength to like fight back and just be free. He's really loyal to humanity.
I don't know. It looks like Crypto's being a little scandalous here. Like he swaps out like a doll version of the dog in the spaceship and puts the real what's his name again?
Jowls.
And puts the real Jowls in there. And Superboy throws the rocket out into space thinking it just has a dummy in it.
Yeah, so Jowls is supposed to be saving whatever dog is in the space capsule, but Crypto put him in the space capsule.
I think what happens is Crypto goes, like he's doing it to teach him a lesson or something, so he threw him in the rocket when it should have been like this dummy. And then after it's thrown up there, he's like, he's learned his lesson. I'll go up there and bring him back before he suffocates.
Yeah, so he just wants to put a little scare into Jowls.
Right.
Because Jowls is a piece of shit. Prima donna. The producer gives Crypto his own little doghouse.
Yeah.
But then Jowls drops a fish in the doghouse and says, I gave the doghouse to these cats.
Dick move.
Yeah, it totally screws over Crypto. Yeah, they're actually both kind of shitty. Crypto shows up and he thinks he's going to be a big star. Mm-hmm. But then he gets bent out of shape because he has to just be a stunt man in service of Jowls. Jowls, who is also a piece of shit.
That's right. Oh, no. He got fired in the end. Scram, Jowls. I'll find another dog for movie roles. You're fired.
But why? Is it just because he failed?
Because he looks scared. Wait for me, Jowls. We're both going the same way, to the unemployment office. The director gets fired, too.
It's twisted. Like,
it is.
Crypto put Jowls in the space capsule.
Yeah, he created that situation, it looks like.
And then Jowls got fired because he was scared instead of being courageous in that situation.
Right.
You kidnapped me and put me in a space capsule against my will, and I'm supposed to be not scared.
Right.
It's kind of funny, though. Like the movie agent or producer guy, he's like, don't take pictures. He looks scared. I'm ruined. But Crypto gives us the wisdom that a bully is only a coward underneath. And Jowls won't forget his lesson.
Maybe there's a sequel story, Jowls Revenge. Gets a hold of some kryptonite.
Oh, yeah. How could it play out? Like Crypto, he's trying to make amends with Jowls, and he visits a set that Jowls is like, it's going to be Jowls' comeback picture. And I don't know, Crypto fucks up something accidentally, and it makes all of Jowls' hair fall out.
Whoa.
And now it's like the Lex Luthor dog.
Oh, right. But he looks kind of like Ren Hoyt. Yeah, why hasn't DC thought of that? Lex needs like a hairless dog. Would be good.
They totally didn't exploit the full or the whole spectrum of the Crypto universe, I guess.
Right.
But they did. Did you see this thing for next issue? Oh, go ahead.
I did. I think
where it says all the lineage of Cryptos.
Right. I was thinking about that when you were talking about all the silly pun names.
Yeah.
Like they're complaining about that, but then all these characters have dumb names.
I kind of want to read this next issue of Superboy, Crypto's family tree.
Right.
Zipto, Nipto, Vipto.
Yeah.
Chico, Harpo.
Zippo, Vipto. And Pepto. Then the Kents as wild teenagers with their banjos. Yeah.
These Superboy issues are kind of packed, I think. Mm-hmm. Like this has 3 pretty solid stories. I mean, maybe even the Kid Psycho one is like the weakest of the 3 as far as ludicrousness.
Yeah.
All 3 of these are Otto Binder writing the stories.
Yeah, and Pap definitely, I'm sure by the look of it, he did the first story, and it looks like he did do the Kid Psycho one too, so maybe he did the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
So
what
it's
I'm
kind of
thinking.
interesting. It's like they're just doing a full book and splitting it in three.
Yeah. I mean, these poses in the crypto one kind of look like Kurt Swan here and there, but
You know, this doesn't look like his. He might have drawn Crypto differently early on.
yeah, I guess I wasn't even thinking about that. Just the humans, but they also look different. So
Yeah, I don't think this is Kurt Swan.
it's maybe Pap with a different inker or something.
Yeah.
Because the Superboy looks different, and the inking style looks different than the
Mm-hmm.
Kid Psycho for sure. It probably has credits on comics.org of who did everything.
I do love the panel with the Superboy flying as his hair is falling out. It's pretty great. See, that first story, that looks like Pap to me. Big time. Like on page 5. I think he was better than a lot of those guys at making Superboy look young.
Yeah,
Like the upper right hand panel there.
right.
Like that's unmistakably Pap.
Yeah, he has a pretty unique style among these guys. I mean, I don't know. They don't have a really. I guess that's unique's kind of the wrong word. Like
Right.
there's something a little bit different about it. It has kind of a I don't know, like a
Yeah.
Bruno Premiani kind of look to it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of a slickness.
Yeah, I can't always point like if I looking at the other panels on that same page, I might think that was Kurt Swan, but that upper right hand panel, that's the tell to me that it's Pap. Like only he draws faces like that.
And I thought his Legionnaires looked pretty good too later on.
It's weird that last page in the story looks like Kurt Schaffenberger. Weird.
The last page?
The very last panel in that story looks like more like Schaffenberger to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, in this one over here, with Superboy collecting the Angora hair from the cat, it doesn't look quite right either. It looks like somebody else. His head doesn't look smooth.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. Then maybe they passed us around the bullpen to finish it.
Yeah, it's a jam comic. That shit had to happen all the time. These deadlines.
But let's get to the main event here. Unless you had something else to talk about.
I'm ready.
This one's called The Sacrifice of Kid Psycho. Pretty nice. Did you read this thing?
I read it. I read it a few times over the years.
Oh, really? I've never read it before this week. I mean, before today. I read it today.
One thing I like immediately about it is I love gangsters with sci-fi gadgets. That reminds me a lot of the George Reeves show. Like they're always wearing fedoras, they're always gangsters, but somehow they have ray guns and stuff that can slow Superman down.
Yeah, these guys have like it's kind of a tank, but kind of a sedan with a kryptonite, like, is it a catapult?
Yeah, kind of looks like it.
And they have a huge chunk of kryptonite. Like, right. I don't know, how did they find, do they ever talk about how people come up with their kryptonite? They just have it, right? They have does it show up under a metal detector or something?
It's all over the place. I think there might have been a story somewhere saying like a meteor shower of it hit Earth or something, but yeah, it seems very plentiful in the DC universe for sure.
Super common, yeah.
You think he would be wearing like a lead suit, really? But
or he would have devised some kind of protection for him himself.
Well, Brainiac 5's working on that formula. He'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Not ironic. It's kind of funny that Brainiac 5 solved the lead poisoning thing for this side character, this totally tertiary dude. And the headliner guy, he still has this weakness. And they never solve it.
They did some weird thing in the 70s, right? Like,
oh, yeah, I was just reading that.
Kryptonite Nevermore.
Yeah, but then his shadow turned into a bad guy or something, right?
Right.
What the hell? I didn't get to the end of it. I don't know what the hell it was. Yeah, they made it so the kryptonite didn't work anymore because of some kind of lab accident or something. Or maybe that was their actual project. The lab was to make it not harm him.
Problem is, I have two versions of the story in my head because they redid that story after Crisis. And I might get the details mixed, but they had Walt Simonson do it. It's like a special that kind of did a modern retelling of it. It's really good. I think in the modern one, like Lex Luthor is trying to like replicate kryptonite, but the experiment instead makes it inert, and then he just picks it up and he eats it like an apple.
Yeah, that was in the old one.
Yeah, it is in the old one. There's a lot of like, it borrows a lot of the frame. It's like almost just redrawn in some places.
I mean, it's funny that like that Swan Anderson drawing of him eating the kryptonite.
Needs salt.
So anyway, this kid walks into it's the store where...
I've heard this one before.
Is this Dobie Gillis's dad's grocery store where Clark Kent works?
It's
Pa Kent owns a grocery store, doesn't he?
Right.
This strange kid with a turban shows up in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to know where Superboy's house is.
Odd clothing he wears. He must be a visitor from a foreign land.
Like the city. Like people like...
Right.
I don't know, kind of judgmental or something on Clark Kent's part, or closed-minded.
Well, I feel like this story is very, very vaguely racist, but they're going out of their way to not make it overtly so. Like he's pointing out that he's different and he's weird, but he's saying it in the most benign possible way. But there's a couple other things that happen throughout the story that seem like a little racially coded. Like he starts charming snakes.
Oh, I don't know. You think that's what that is? That's why the snake part is in there? I guess because he's a turban. So. Yeah, right. You're right. I didn't really put two and two together on that. This guy shows up and Clark Kent sends him on his way, and he encounters a downed power line that's about to blow up the nitroglycerin truck that's for some reason parked outside of...
As small towns often have, like a giant truck packed full of nitroglycerin.
Like it says danger explosives in its first appearance on panel. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, okay, this is a road crew or something like that.
Right.
But then the side it says nitroglycerin. I don't know. Like you could tell me that nitroglycerin does not even exist outside of like Warner Brothers cartoons, and I might believe you.
Right.
And then to have a whole truck full of it and expect me to believe that, in reality here of Smallville.
I mean, it's not totally inconceivable, I guess. They're probably like building the Great Lakes around, or the lakes. And they were doing...
Is that what they use it for? Do they use it for like demolition type of explosions? Is that the only purpose that it has?
Blowing things up? I believe so.
Yeah, that's the only reason anybody ever blows up stuff, huh? Is to build, turn this flat plains into a lake.
Outside of war, yeah. I would say
do they use nitroglycerin in war? Too dangerous, right? It's supposed to be really unstable and dangerous.
Right. They probably... I don't know a damn thing about it, but...
You know why? It's because it's not real. It's a made-up thing.
I imagine they don't keep a whole bunch of it packed into one small car.
Yeah, what was that? It's in some movie where it's like this one drop of this nitroglycerin is like whatever 26 to dynamite, and everybody's like, "Well, don't drop the nitroglycerin." And it's in everything it's ever in.
See, now that you mention that, I don't even know. Do they use it for mining and stuff, or do they just use plain old dynamite?
Well, yeah, plain old dynamite would be safer. As dangerous as it is.
Unless a goat eats some of it, of course.
Yeah. I think dynamite sweats out nitroglycerin.
Okay. Like it's some distilled version of it?
Yeah, it's like the essence of gunpowder or like whatever the hell is in dynamite
juice.
Yeah, it's like the N from TNT.
Oh,
maybe
that sounds possible.
Anyway, yeah, I guess the society expects us to believe it's dangerous as fuck, and this power line might set it off, even though every other thing I've ever seen about nitroglycerin is that if you drop it or you jostle it, then it's going to blow up. Right. And it's maybe not even like if you hold a cigarette lighter up to it, it's not a problem as long as you don't jostle it. I don't know.
Superboy wants to take care of it, but Kid Psycho steps in because he doesn't want Superboy to accidentally set off the nitroglycerin, I guess.
Yeah, Kid Psycho has a safer way of... doesn't make sense.
It's a little odd, though, because once Superboy gets a hold of it, he flies directly above the nitroglycerin and then fixes the wire with his heat vision with sparks flying.
I guess Kid Psycho's only contribution is that he protected the truck from the sparks. So he must have held up the force field the whole time. Superboy is up there welding welding electric wires.
Right.
He's up there welding the arcing electric wires.
Right.
With his heat vision.
Right.
So yeah, he had to have been protecting the truck the whole time.
Yeah, probably should have maybe, I don't know, moved the truck across the street first.
Yeah, he could have just hopped behind the wheel and driven it over there, right?
Right.
But he has these magnificent powers. That's really what he's here for, is to show Superboy his great powers of force field. Yeah, this next sequence is at the zoo, where some clumsy dude breaks the glass of the Cobra pen.
He looks drunk to me, the intoxicated zookeeper.
Yeah, he does kind of. Like, his eyes look a little oddball, don't they?
Yeah, Smallville seems a little bit like Mayberry in that it's supposedly a really small town, but they'll add things as the story needs it. So there's things that you wouldn't imagine a really small town having, like a big zoo.
A big zoo with 2 enormous cobras in it.
Right.
Like the zoo in my hometown, we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. They have a bobcat in the zoo.
Those are all over the place in Kansas.
I know. There's a lot of wild ones. Right. They don't need one in the zoo, really. And it's a cat. It looks like, have you ever seen a house cat? Bobcat looks like kind of like one of those, but maybe 5 times bigger.
They're about the size of a dog, I think, right? Like a medium-sized dog, or
yeah. So maybe not even 5 times bigger than a house cat. Maybe 2 or 3 times bigger than a house cat. They weigh 70 pounds or something.
You don't have to scale a cat up much before they're pretty dangerous, though. So you get a house cat the size of like a dog, it'll rip your face off.
That's true.
You can jog by it.
But my point is that why do you need to have a cat in the zoo? You know?
Right.
I mean, you could take my cat and put it in the zoo. I'd be happy.
Zoo.
Yeah, right. Squirrels.
It's more like they didn't know what to do about the bobcat, so it's like some liability thing. They just put up a sign that said zoo.
The bobcat was there first.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had cobras in my hometown zoo.
Halt, snakes. You will go no further. And you see how he's saying it one word at a time slowly, like he's putting them into a trance.
Right. But he's still just using his force field.
Right. He is.
Why does he talk like that?
Because he's a mystical foreigner.
Yeah, but he's a blonde guy.
Well, you don't know that yet.
Well, right. But even when I do discover it, it's like, that's why I didn't think of it in that way, because I just kind of glossed over this, and it's like, oh, he's a blonde guy.
The turban didn't give you pause?
No. I just thought it was some kind of futuristic thing.
It was popular in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe you just got out of the shower.
So he stops the snakes. Superboy still comes and cleans up the mess, and Kid Psycho leaves. Then there's some bank robbers with the crazy catapult tank sedan.
Of course, this is just a story, so it's silly to even nitpick it. But those crooks snatched $1 million. I got to thinking about that, and I looked it up. And like a big bank today might have $200,000 on hand, maybe.
Yeah.
A small bank will have like $50,000. So even back then, this is a flashback within a 50-year-old comic. So this is like the 30s in a small town. They have $1 million in the bank.
Yeah, a weird town.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, like an armored car maybe would have, like on the Andy Griffith Show, they're always like, the FBI shows up and they're like, listen, Andy and Barney, we're moving America's most wanted criminal through your town. You got to protect him. Something like that. Like,
well, they moved an armored car full of money once.
Did they do that? Like, there's $1 million in Mayberry for one day. Something like that.
And
yeah.
Of course, Barney told everybody in town. But the FBI or whoever knew that these bumpkins would end up telling everybody. So it turned out it was a decoy. Oh,
yeah. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, bumpkins, they'll do it every time. Just like Jimmy Hatlow would say. You remember Jimmy Hatlow as the artist of They'll Do It Every Time? Or are you more of a Al Scaduto guy? Do you know this comic?
Is he a cartoonist? He's a cartoonist, right?
Yeah, you don't know that?
What is it? Tell me.
They'll Do It Every Time was When I was a kid, it was on Sundays only. I bet they don't make it anymore. But it's this old comic strip where
Did it
it's
survive to the 80s? They're
yeah,
like still making it.
yeah. Originally, it was Jimmy Hatlow who was. I think he did a bunch of stuff. I think he was a relatively big newspaper cartoonist back in the 50s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Different guy when I was a kid, Al Scaduto.
Sounds like a made up name.
Yeah. It's a
Is there a movie called Skidoo?
oh yeah, Skidoo. No, this is Scaduto.
Okay.
Like Italian, I guess.
I mean the title sounds familiar, but I can't envision it. They didn't carry it here.
Yeah, it's a comic where the reader submits stuff to them where like ironic type of things. And it's called They'll Do It Every Time.
Mm-hmm.
And like the one I remember is like, oh yeah, anytime there's a pile of dirty dishes in the sink, you can count on there being a spoon right on the top. So when you turn the water on, it sprays you in the face. Of course,
Right.
it's much more brief. You know, they have better brevity in the comic than my explanation there. But and so there'd be a cartoon drawing of some stupid man with an apron on getting water splashed on his face.
I see.
And they have an array. Each episode has like 4 of these users submitted, like one panel gags, kind of in one.
Looks like it's changed pretty significantly over the years. Like the old stuff looks like Blondie.
So it might have even been around before Jimmy Hatlow, even.
I think so. This stuff looks pretty darn old. 1930. No, 19. This is 1943. One of them I'm looking at. But the newer stuff looks like, I don't know, like Andy Cap or something. It looks very different.
I mean, I remember it being kind of loose and kind of decent cartooning, you know, but it was like the subject matter was just dire and dull, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you let your audience write your gags for you.
It ran 1929 to 2008.
Fuck. 80 years?
And it actually had three different artists or creators over that time. Jimmy Hatlow's the first guy, then someone named Bob Dunn, and then Al Scaduto.
Oh, Bob Dunn, huh?
Bob Dunn had it from 63 to 89.
Okay. Huh. Jimmy Hatlow, his claim to fame is Little Iodine, I think is his other comic strip.
Okay, I know that one.
I think I'm connecting the two correctly.
Oh yeah, this looks like the Little Iodine stuff looks similar to what they were doing in the 80s. That's weird because the earlier ones don't look like this at all. But Little Iodine probably went a long time, didn't it? It went to 85. It went to 85. Bob Dunn did that one too.
Yeah, he must have just inherited all of Jimmy Hatlow's portfolio.
When did we get to inherit something? Take over Shoe or something.
You got to be somebody's assistant.
Yeah.
Somebody else already took over Shoe, right? Didn't that guy die?
Probably.
The guy who did it when we were kids, I think, died sort of unexpectedly, I think.
Yeah.
Shoe.
I think they ended Kathy, so.
No way. There's no way they ended Kathy.
Isn't Kathy done?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't know. What do I know about what's in the funny pages these days? In the funny pages.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's still going. The daily strip is done. She stopped doing the daily. Oh, wait. No. It ended in 2010.
Wow. So daily and Sunday ended in 2010.
I'm murky on that. It looks like it all ended in 2010. I'm just looking at Wikipedia. But I remember it being, of course, in the news that she was retired.
Oh, I remember it being, I remember Lynn Johnson being a big thing when she retired, for better or for worse. And since those are the two woman created comic strips, I think I might have confused them sometimes. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kathy, she finally blew her brains out probably in the last strip.
I wonder, like, that popped up in the 70s, and I could kind of see some connection to that in, like, underground comics, Crumb kind of stuff, that American Greetings looking stuff. Maybe she started out edgier before she moved to, you don't know.
Yeah, where every third panel is just Kathy going, ack!
Right.
My hair is too frizzy.
Right. think For Better or Worse is a good comic, but I was never able to really get into it.
Yeah, same
It's
here.
more for like grown-ups.
Yeah, kind of a grown-up soap
30
opera
something.
almost.
Or something, yeah.
30-something. Yeah.
I mean, the drawings look good. I feel like it got elevated in importance once like Watterson and Schultz were both gone.
Oh,
At least
yeah, you're
here. So
probably
they
right.
ended up bumping it up and it seemed to get more attention. Do you remember when Schultz sort of receded into the background because of Watterson? But then when Watterson retired, it's like, I'm still here. I think he got bumped off the front page of the funnies here because of Bill Watterson. And then he ended up back at the top. I don't know how your funny pages were, but here it was like the number one guy got to be on the top of the front page of the funnies.
Yeah, like on Sunday, I can't really think of. Yeah, I have no recollection of the order of our Sunday section.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was always Peanuts and then like Garfield. I don't think Garfield ever got above Peanuts, but it was always number 2 or number 3. And then at some point, like Calvin and Hobbes really took off and it ended up above Peanuts. It was pretty crazy.
I think it's kind of crazy that Watterson's whole career, or like he went through his whole cartooning career, and Schultz still continued for I don't know how many, a decade or something afterwards.
Exactly. I was telling you about that friend of mine who lives here. She knows Bill Watterson. She like has met him in person several times, talked to him because she was high up at Andrews and McNeil for a while, at least in the comic section. So she worked with him personally a lot, as well as oh man, the guy who died, he had like ALS.
Oh yeah, Richard Thompson.
She knew him too. She knew him.
He was so good.
Yeah, he was really good.
I might say he's better than Watterson.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, Watterson, I think he's good. I also think he's sort of overrated by younger people. And I kind of feel like it's probably easy to seem really exceptional if you only do like comics for 10 years and quit. Like it's harder probably to put out good stuff for a sustained period of time like Schultz and those other guys.
Right, Schultz and Plastino.
Mort Walker. Oh, Plastino, yeah.
I'm trying to remember, what was that? What's the strip that Plastino does? That stupid, boring ass pantomime thing. I can't remember it. In the Al Plastino interview in the Legion Companion, that's his proudest cartooning achievement is that daily strip that he did, and it's like it's the most. I mean, comics like that are the most like skippable strips.
Yeah, but to those guys, that was the big time. Like that was as close as you could get to like a legitimate, respectable occupation within comics. One that you wouldn't have to be embarrassed to tell your neighbors what you do for a living. Like, right. I think a lot of those guys were kind of ashamed that they were doing.
I get it, but stuff. It's just like you like the thing that made you the best money and gave you the best career is the thing you're most proud about, even if it's like,
is it Ferdinand?
Yes, Ferdinand.
Yeah.
Even if it's like the lowest achievement of like creativity, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I did the exact same drawing every day for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Best thing I ever did. Best move I ever made. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know.
You know, but what guys his generation also grew up when they were growing up. The guys like Bud Fisher, like that guy was like a celebrity. Like he hung out with movie stars and he had millions of dollars. Like it was possible to be like a successful celebrity, wealthy cartoonist back when those when guys like Plastino were kids.
I don't doubt that Al Plastino's best gig ever was Ferdinand.
But I can't say that. I don't know.
I mean, best like money gig probably, right? You know, for him to say that was his most whatever satisfying achievement in his cartooning career, like that. Right. But it's because that it was the highest profile, made of the most money. Probably is just what he's talking about.
Right. I think maybe Gary Trudeau is like the very last celebrity cartoonist. And I don't even know, some of that might just be because he was married to, or is married to
Oh yeah,
Connie.
Jane Pauley, right?
Yeah. That's why he ended up on national news so much.
Nah, he was really big.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been in like the
Yeah, like the
80s or something since.
80s.
Is he still doing it?
I think so. I keep meaning to try to read it. Like maybe I'll like it now because I know enough about what's going on in the world. Like maybe the gags will hit, but it's
Yeah,
probably too
maybe.
late. I was talking to God, the names are slipping. The guy you were just talking about earlier, the guy running the Comics Journal, about that. Like
Austin.
it's all mismatched. Like his best stuff was probably in the 70s, but we didn't live through the 70s, so we're gonna miss a lot of the jokes and irony and stuff. Now we're old enough and sophisticated enough to get it now, but he's probably long in the tooth and just coasting.
Yeah, I think he's been coasting for quite some time.
Right. And then that other guy like made a big career out of just sort of copying his style and adding a penguin.
You know, like when you look at them, they're not really too close at all, really.
Okay.
Or, you know, it's like actually that guy Burke, I don't know how you say his last name, Burke Breathed, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at like the early Doonesbury style
Mm-hmm.
and Outland or whatever that shit is,
Mm-hmm.
it's Outland is like the better drawn or more cohesive same style or something, you
Right,
know what I
right.
mean, between the two of them. But then when Doonesbury went away and came back and was like real tight, they didn't look alike at all, I don't think.
Okay.
That's my take on it. But as a person who never really read either one of those guys'
Right.
comics.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of people I knew who were like really, really into Bill Watterson were also really into Opus Outland.
Yeah, it's scratchy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the editorial cartoonist kind of style almost. Like Shu. Shu was an editorial cartoonist guy too.
Yeah, I kind of like his style. I never really read much of that strip, but I just thought it looked good.
Yeah, it's another one. It's like Doonesbury almost, where as a kid, it's like, oh, they're
Yeah.
talking about politics. It's a giant bird guy
It was
talking
like-
about politics.
Lots of hatchy squiggles, like on the wrinkles on their coats.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah,
It looked
some of
like
those guys are
Cheers or
good.
something to me, but with birds.
Yeah, you're right. And it does seem really brown, like Cheers,
Mm-hmm.
dark.
I think at least the only character I remember, maybe he had glasses and wore kind of a suit, but he's a bird, and he's always sitting at a bar, like possibly in a tree.
I remember it like a desk in a tree.
Oh,
Like maybe he
okay.
just writes.
Maybe he's
He is-
just drinking at his desk. I don't know.
You know what? You're right. I think there was beers sometimes too, huh?
Or maybe he's one of those characters. He's always in the same position, just in different locations.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done digressing for tonight. I promise.
No, that's all right. I mean, who'd have thought that talking about fucking 30-year-old newspaper comics would be more interesting than the Superboy comic? Yeah, we were talking about the bank robbers.
Mm-hmm. And the $1 million.
And
One.
so, Kid Psycho protects Superboy from the kryptonite, and then he throws the kryptonite down in the sewer to get rid of it.
The lead sewer. So he takes
Yeah.
the radioactive material, possibly contaminating the water supply, but it's okay. It's in lead anyway, so these people are already fucked. I don't know that you can get the radioactivity out. Maybe they can filter the lead out.
Right. They talk about the radioactivity of kryptonite. It only harms Superboy. I don't know too much about radioactivity. I think we had a long discussion displaying
Yes.
how little we know about radioactivity
Right.
in another video.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It could be a radioactivity that harms only Kryptonians.
Right.
I don't know how it works. I need a scientist to explain.
I mean,
this.
in the magical comic world, yeah. I don't think there would be selective radioactivity in the real world. And, of course, Luthor lost his hand post-crisis from handling the kryptonite.
That wasn't a Mort Weisinger decision, though.
Right.
That was some realistic guy like John Byrne did that. Up to now, Superboy hasn't really been able to catch up with Kid Psycho and get the details on what his problem is. But this time he does.
He does indeed. He's like, I'm not Arab.
Right, he unwraps his turban, And not only does he have blonde hair and is not an Arab from a foreign land,
What? You have blonde hair.
with just a giant head.
And you know what's interesting is within this story, it kind of seems like he just used the turban to disguise himself so he doesn't stand out in the 20th century. But, of course, every subsequent appearance in the future, it has become part of his costume.
That's true. You know, I was looking at, Legion of Super Bloggers or something, and they had an entry on him, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was there. Anyway, they showed how he was in the crowd at Duo Damsel's wedding or whatever, and he's not wearing the turban there. He just has a big head. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then at the big group photo in Legion number 300, he's back with the turban.
I mean, from like a cartooning point of view, it makes sense. You want him to make him as iconic as possible. That people aren't going to, even if it technically doesn't make sense, he's going to be more identifiable with the covering.
Yeah.
Especially since he doesn't have any real appearances beyond this until he might have one. I think 80% of his 10 appearances ever are him being in the background of like a big Legion family get together. Like he's way in back with like in the cheap seats with like the heroes of Lalor.
I mean, he has a unique look without the turban. He has a giant noggin, you know,
Right.
like that Marvel guy, like the leader, is that his name?
Yes.
Like that guy's kind of cool looking. He always stands out in the crowd because his head is.
Well, there's a Green Lantern villain like that too, right? Like Hector Hammond.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, so yeah. Point is, he doesn't need to have the turban. It makes sense that it's a disguise for the 20th century.
Right.
So it's like the people who are doing his subsequent appearances have never read this to get the idea that he doesn't actually have to wear that.
Right.
And then I saw like a who's who thing maybe,
where
the turban is like, it's white. It looks like bandages or whatever. Whereas in this issue, it's kind of like a wrap type of thing. It's not as woven, you know, when he undoes it.
Right.
But then like in the Ty Templeton who's who entry that's silly, it looks like a Swami turban or something. Swami. I don't know if it's okay to say that or not. I don't know.
I do wonder, did they intend him to be like Indian and then they thought, well, maybe that's too offensive? Or
I don't think so. I'm sure you're right that there's that connotation of the snake charmer wearing a turban type of thing.
Right.
And you're probably right. That's why it's like that, because a kid sees that hat or that headwear and is like, oh, yeah, he's a snake charmer.
Right.
He can levitate and shit like that. But also everybody in this comic is a white person with blonde hair, except Superboy, who has black hair. Really, now who's the foreigner from a distant land? Superboy. Because he's from Krypton.
Right.
He starts telling Superboy his secret origin.
Which kind of feels like a mishmash of a couple other boilerplate origins, including Superboy's.
Yeah, it's sort of a lot like Superboy's. About how his parents were astronauts and they get radiation from this totally rad space monster, the space octopus? And that's why
this is space octopus who it kind of seems like he's probably just minding his own business. He's like a space animal. He's not like Starro or something looking to conquer the universe. But astronauts who get too close to him are getting attacked. So they have to go up there and murder this guy. They murder him with like a uranium blast, like a uranium gun, even though he's apparently living in some sort of radioactive belt. I guess some radiation hurts him, some doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. For some reason, like his silhouette it's like glowing like a...
Yeah, his outline is etched in the heavens, and he's now the monster constellation.
It's kind of the most imaginative part of the whole book.
Yeah. Well, and the best design. This thing...
It looks really good on that TV screen.
Yeah, I like the color. Like he's white, but he's got this kind of sickly purple, blue kind of outline or kind of highlights or something.
Yeah.
You know, he's ugly as hell, but that's really his only sin, I think.
Right.
Like you said, he just keep your distance. That's why he looks so ugly, is because you're not supposed to go near him.
Right.
And then you'll
right.
probably be just fine. But the constellation does look pretty rad. So I guess that's a benefit of killing this innocent space beast.
Right. The last of its kind, no doubt.
I'm sure. Well, they get their comeuppance, right?
And I wonder if their comeuppance are could that be the result of them blasting this guy up in the atmosphere with an atomic blast that could have wiped out 1 million people? Could the fallout have led to the
No,
end?
it's totally random.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a wandering planet crashes into their planet.
More like that octopus's cousin.
Yeah,
through the
through a planet. So everybody on Kid Psycho's planet dies.
Mm-hmm.
He's the last of his race, and yeah, he got superpowers. What's the dad? The dad says he has a bigger brain from a mutation. He has the power of mind over matter now.
I think this must be okay. X-Men are like 14 issues deep by now. So the whole like radiation causing a mutation that is not just some kind of deformity, but something that is like evolution, that kind of science fiction-y mutation that is both evolutionary and grants you powers. I'm sure the X-Men weren't the first to do that, but I wonder if that's why they pigeonholed that into this story. They're trying to tap into that, whatever is popular about the X-Men.
Oh, could be. Like maybe the moral of this whole story.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should talk about it after we reveal the secret tragedy of Kid Psycho. But right now he has mind over matter. I wrote down telekinesis is kind of how we think of this now. He can lift up his toy blocks. He can write on the chalkboard without getting out of his chair. So he has the superpower of laziness as well.
Right.
And force fields, which is the only power that he really ever uses, I guess, is force fields.
Well, he has one more really cool power, but
yes, really cool. So they show that shit, and then they show the planet getting wiped out by a wandering planet. I think that this is maybe the second best drawing. The planet being destroyed, second best after 1, 2, 3, panel 4 of the previous page of the space beast.
Yeah.
But I don't know, 2 really great drawings in this one story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Kid Psycho says he's from the 30th century. He tried to get in the Legion of Superheroes, and they wouldn't have him. What is their fucking problem? He said he had a real good tryout, but then they rejected him. Looks like he just used only used his force field. Now it's called a Psycho Shield.
Right.
In the tryout.
So he's waited a year because he's allowed to try out again. And he's come to the past because he wants Superboy to sponsor him, speak on his behalf.
You know what? One other thing I wanted to mention about his origin back here.
Sure.
Is that he's a mutant and he's the only person on his planet who has this big head and these powers.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not dismissed as a freak. They don't show them making fun of him. And I thought it was kind of a rare instance of empathy in these kind of comics where they actually seem like they still have respect for him, even though he's ought to be an outcast. And he becomes one. He becomes the last person on the whole planet.
I mean, I wonder if that could just as easily be attributed to them not giving the story that kind of realism or depth, as opposed to it being an intentional progressive choice.
Yeah, I don't know that it was an intentional progressive choice. I think it might be down to the writer. I feel like when Hamilton and Siegel, those are the Legion writers I'm used to reading.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a dude who, he's a mutant and he has a big head, part of that story is also going to be that he's an outcast and everybody laughs at him. Yeah. I think that happened with Beast Boy, who was a mutant but could turn into other animals.
Okay.
And people didn't like him, But in this one, it's not. I mean, they only talk about it for 4 panels or whatever, his whole life history.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a sort of there's an acceptance of this guy,
mm-hmm.
And even the Legionnaires, sort of like they're not rude to him in the way that they are to uh, everyone else.
Uh,
We can talk about this.
That's up for debate. I think maybe
Yeah.
they're crueler to him than they've been to anyone.
Well, they have a reason, right? Let's talk about his great superpower here.
All
His third, I guess, time travel. He calls it his psycho force. Superboy can break the time barrier by flying.
Yes.
Kid Psycho has psycho force.
He's got like a psycho time drill.
Drills a path through time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe his greatest power.
Right. For sure.
And so when Superboy and Kid Psycho show up to the Legionnaires, and they're like, Superboy's like, "What the fuck? This guy, he's so rad, so cool." They say that all their applicants go through a health exam, a physical exam, and in his case, they discovered that every time he uses his powers, his life is shortened by about 1 year. Is what this paper says.
Right.
It's gonna bring him to an early grave, so they couldn't accept him. And that's doing him a favor.
Except
like
they didn't bother to tell him. They didn't bother to tell him. Which seems very like, it's how I think of like hiring managers in this day and age. Like, they're not going to hire you because of some red flag, but they're not going to bother telling you what it is that you're doing wrong, that you need to improve on, because it's not their problem.
I mean, I get that. The job interview thing, sure.
But it seems like if the decent thing to do would be, hey, listen, you need to stop using your powers or you're going to die. You're unaware of this. Brainiac 5 sits him down and lets him know, like, this is killing you. But they're like, no, he's somebody else's. He'll die somewhere else, not here.
Yeah, for a whole year, he's practicing. He's trying to get better at using his powers.
Yeah, he's used his power at least 5 times in here. So he's lost 5. That's at least 5 years he's lost. And who knows? He's probably been practicing all year.
Yeah. He probably shaved 100 years off of his life.
Would they have even told him when he showed up for the second time if Superboy hadn't come? Like, they just send him home again, try again next year.
Well, what Saturn Girl says is, we didn't realize the doctors hadn't told him the findings of this medical exam.
Right. Miss Telepathic, my ass.
I mean, to me, it just sounds like they're being respectful of this guy's, of his health issues. Like they're not going to be like, hey, big head, come in here in front of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to die. Right? They didn't do that. They left that to the doctor. For this confidential patient-doctor kind of relationship is where that conversation is appropriate. Saturn Girl should not have told him this. This is for, like, she's not qualified. She's not a doctor.
I don't know. I think if they did this story today or in post 0 hour, I think people would be writing in like, what the fuck? These kids are sociopaths.
Yeah, I see both sides.
It's because you're a sociopath.
I am not. Quit saying that.
It's like...
like who?
No. It's like someone and they have some kind of problem, like they're drinking too much or something, and you're like, you just don't say anything because you don't want to deal with the conflict or something.
Oh, and that's why Saturn Girl didn't tell him that he was dying slowly by using his superpowers.
Right. Not my job. Somebody will let him know.
Yeah. Like, this is just a superhero club. This is just part-time.
Yeah.
It's not my job to tell people they're going to die.
Mm-hmm. Plus, he's got that deformity. He wouldn't fit in very well. Brainiac 5's green, but he's still good looking.
Like, here comes Death Dome. He's here.
Right. And that's another thing. Brainiac 5, is this guy on his plate too? Like, I was going to get around to fixing that, or he's like, that's not my problem.
I don't think you can fix that. A genetic mutation? What's he going to do? Like, replace all his DNA? Maybe they can do that.
They can do that now.
No, you can't change it. You could maybe change my offspring's DNA.
No,
you can change my DNA and take away my mutant abilities?
I don't know about your mutant abilities, but NPR is always talking about gene therapy and how they're using it to help people with like sickle cell anemia and
What about my mutant ability to shoot saliva out of my tongue and aim it at you?
Maybe not. I'm just saying if they can kind of do it now for minor things like sickle cell anemia, then in 1,000 years, the smartest guy in the universe might be able to do something for this guy.
Yeah, you're right. CRISPR? Is that what CRISPR does?
Yes. Yeah, CRISPR.
I mean, I've heard of it, but they don't talk about it too much. Is it because what the medical industrial complex wants to keep it a secret from us? So they don't talk about CRISPR, or is it illegal, or is it just the bullshit science that you cannot change your own DNA?
I should say I am not a scientist. I know that they're constantly talking about gene editing, and I could not tell you off the top of my head if there is if like genes and DNA are completely separate things or the same.
Yeah,
But
same here.
I'm pretty sure they're interrelated.
It would be great if Brainiac 5 could fix this guy so he still had those awesome powers, but wasn't dying at an enhanced rate.
Right. I did kind of want to briefly go over his final appearance, which is like half a page. But yeah.
Before that, let's talk about. I just had the idea that maybe his powers were sort of a mirror of what we all were thinking about back in the 60s with the looming threat of nuclear annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you get irradiated, you'll die slowly, and it's I guess maybe it's a way to break that to little kids that or just to tie it into that idea, like, yeah, maybe you'll be super, but it's for a limited time. You don't actually want to be near deadly radiation or be a mutant baby. It's actually bad. It's bad for you. And here's an example of it being bad. Whereas the X-Men never got there. X-Men were wonderful people, and they didn't have a fatal illness as a result of these superpowers or as side by side with their superpowers. Whereas
read any X-Men?
No, but Kid Psycho, he's got the powers, but now he's gonna die from them.
Right.
If he uses them. It's also a way to keep kids in line, like to keep people homogenous, or to keep
right.
Don't
use the thing that makes you different than other people, or makes
you don't want to stand out,
right?
Even if you have a gigantic dome head.
See, that seems more in keeping with DC at this period. The kinds of what you're saying, the kind of cautionary tales and morality plays. I don't feel like DC had a lot of that at this point, like not with nuclear war. Yeah. Marvel did it quite a lot, like almost all of their, like the Hulk, in the Hulk, no, but like Spider-Man has there's a lot of radioactivity affecting those guys. And in X-Men, they do talk a lot about the World War and the development of the A-bomb, and that they are the offspring of the A-bomb. Mm-hmm. Like it's directly from that, at least early on, they were saying that led to their existence. And not all of them, just the good guys happen to all be good looking because of it. Quite a few of them, usually the villains, end up monstrous, or it's more of an impediment than a gift.
Oh yeah, and they had those whole Morlocks thing. That may be a later development.
That is later, but yeah. And then EC, of course, talked about that kind of stuff a lot.
Is there an X-Man who has the same scenario as Kid Psycho, who everybody knows that whoever, Cyclops, he's going to die way earlier than the rest of us because of his power?
I can't remember if there's someone like that or not, but I know he's not the only character like this. He may be the first, but this has definitely been done since, and maybe a little better. Well, I don't feel like they ever really it would have been interesting, and part of this is because they crunched it down to 8 pages. But if there was some scene where he saves Superboy here, and then he's faint, or he falls down, and Superboy's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Oh, I just skipped lunch today," or something. And it turns out maybe he kind of knows deep inside it's killing him, but he doesn't want to face it. Something like that. And then they have to convince him to stop using his powers.
Right.
Which, I'm just going to say it right now, that's the thing that is underwhelming about the Crisis thing. Like, it feels like, well, this is his last appearance. He should go out with a bang, and he doesn't. Like, I'm going to use up all the rest of my years and save this city real quick and then die. Instead, he just, like, falls under some rubble.
Yep. Yeah, totally wasted in that appearance. I mean, I kind of get that they had 1 billion superheroes to kill in that or something, but like even when they did the tie-in in the Legion title, they didn't even show as much in that as they did in Crisis.
Yeah, I think it just gets name checked or something, right?
Yeah, they show a drawing. It's like a redraw of something from Crisis, I think, in one panel.
Right.
Yeah, really not a dramatic send-off.
I don't even think he dies on panel. They just cut back to him and he's under some rubble because they're like trying to talk to him via their intercom, their telepathic earplugs or whatever they're using. And they're like, he's not responding. And then they cut back to him and he's just laying under rubble.
Yeah, I saw it on the website today, and it's like maybe a half or a third of the page is dedicated to the death of Kid Psycho. And of that, 3 of the panels are like repeated panels, basically, of him being dead, laying on the ground.
Right.
Sad for a guy who gave up everything to save.
Right.
I don't know what he went back in time. He's saving some fucks he doesn't even know back in 1,000 years ago. He's in this comic, like he's really willing to do like, hey, if you ever need me, I'm here, man. I want to kill myself to save people. Right. And he's not just blowing smoke. He really does it. And they can only give him 5 panels.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, he should have had a better send-off. I mean, if you're only going to use him one more time, let's see him die like a hero, I guess.
Yeah.
Reach his potential. I think you could still probably do that within 1 or 2 pages.
Oh, totally. But at the end of this comic, Saturn Girl pays him the ultimate lip service by saying, you can't be a Legionnaire, but you'll be a reserve Legionnaire. I'm going to put a piece of paper that has your name on it in this giant filing cabinet and close the drawer.
Yep.
Now you're one of the Legion reserves, and that makes him feel better.
Yep.
Superboy says that's all he needs to make him happy.
Yeah.
I think Kid Psycho's life sucks. I feel really sorry for Kid Psycho.
Well, it's kind of weird because like he finds out and they just emotionally he doesn't seem. He's like, naturally you can't accept me under these circumstances, but he's not broken up about it at all. But he is broken up when he can't join the team when he's walking away. But there's no emotional like you need to sit down to hear this kind of thing, like.
Yeah, he gets a little choked up, but
he gets choked up that he can't join the team. Not that he's
well, right. I
got a terminal illness.
Well, because this guy wants to belong somewhere, you know?
Right.
Like he is a freak of nature. His parents are dead. Everybody on his planet is dead.
Yeah. He's like total outcast.
He's like, geez, if only there was a club of people with abilities like mine where I could really belong. Because I have no one else. And they're like, sorry, you can't be with us.
Yeah. Yeah, they should have like at least like let him be like the janitor or something. So it could be around them. And if they really needed him, he could jump in.
Right, just come and hang out.
Right.
You know they're hanging out a bunch and just dicking around.
Right.
They're teenagers. And like when there's 20 of them and the missions they go on, they only use 5, there's still 15 of these losers just dicking around, playing tiddlywinks in their silly rocket thing.
Right.
Kids, he doesn't need powers to dick around.
You'd end up burning through him pretty quick, but it'd be interesting to have him on the team, and then he's constantly conflicted. Should I use my power? I could get us out of this mine, but it's another year. How many do I have left? I have no idea.
Well, yeah, how many could he possibly have left? Like we were just kidding around that he's practicing using his powers and stuff, but he probably used a bunch before he had any idea, right?
Right.
So he shaved 30 years off his life, and so is he only going to live to be, in this issue, he shaved 5 years off his life? Is he really only going to live to be 22?
For all we know, he's like 6.
Yeah.
Maybe if in that Crisis story, when he's expending all his power, he ages at super speed.
Yeah, there's no way to really figure this out, is there?
Right.
like your life is shorter by approximately 1 year, but you still age and develop like you normally would if you weren't cutting off down at this end.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a window of 15, 20 years where you more or less, you don't change too significantly. And he could be still within that window, I guess. But yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, he must have had to use his power more. Maybe they're really long lived. Because he must have used his power more than 70 times just to learn how to use them.
Listen to this idea. Maybe his mutant abilities make him live longer.
Oh, okay.
For each year he doesn't use, for each time he doesn't use his powers, he lives a year longer.
That would be a curse. Oh shit! I could save all these people, but I'd have to live here another year. It's God-forsaken planet.
Well, yeah, he's out there on the mission with them, and he's like, "Geez, I could use my power and save them, but I would shorten my life by a year. Or if I don't use my power, I'm gonna live even longer."
He just wants to join his family in his Valhalla or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to rest. I'm never going to die. Or maybe he's suicidal and that's why he wants to do it. He knows he wants to die. You sure you don't need me?
This guy, he has to be really troubled.
Yeah.
You know, just like the experience of losing his whole planet and having weird mutant powers. And then finding out the part that it's making him die sooner than he wants
Survivor's guilt.
Survivor's guilt and doomed guilt. Is there something that's like the guilt of the doomed?
I don't know. It seems sort of at cross purposes. I don't know.
Like you
feel guilty that you're doomed? Feel guilty that you're going to die? I guess if life is such a hell on earth and you're surrounded by people that live forever, you could maybe feel guilty that you get to die.
No, I think Kid Psycho could feel guilty that he's going to die because he has such magnificent powers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so selfless that there's a guilt in knowing that he won't be able to use his powers to help people if he dies.
Yeah, kind of. But it's sort of moot, right?
Totally. It's all moot. Mm-hmm. That's part of what makes him such a tragic character. Mm-hmm. One of the more tragic characters, I think, in the Legion comics.
I think they could have told at least a dozen good stories just revolving around at least his part in the story being like, I could get us out of this jam right now, but do I want to throw another year of my life away? And maybe in some cases he does, maybe in some he figures out a way to save the day without using his powers.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think you probably could get more out of him than you did Chemical King.
You couldn't in good conscience add him to the team. Like they say in here, it's like, no, we know that when you use your powers, it harms you. Right. We can't let you be a member of the team.
So that's why I said, kind of jokingly, janitor. Like, give him some sort of. They don't want him to be alone, so they're going to give him some sort of staff job. So he's like the guy flying the spaceship or something. He's not supposed to get involved.
Yeah,
but he's often around and involves himself.
Yeah, that would be a good use for him. But then there wouldn't be I don't think, too many opportunities for him to be like, geez, all 25 of the Legionnaires are caught in a trap. I'm the only one who could help them. Should I do that? Is it worth it?
Right.
Is it worth it to save Tyrock?
There's other possibilities. There's like maybe he uses it, but he hides it from them. They don't know that he saved Dawnstar from being smashed by the collapsing ceiling.
Yeah. I wonder if the force field takes away less of his life than the
time drill?
Yeah, the Psycho Force time drill thing. Like, that seems like it would be a much bigger strain on you than the simple force field for the snakes.
Well, that one feels like a good trade-off for a year, you know? The force field seems like it's kind of it's an okay power. It's not a A-lister power.
Yeah, the total Sue Storm wimp-ass power.
Right.
Would you give up 2 years of your life to go back in time to whatever place you wanted to? And we're talking 2 years at the end, right? Years 91 and 92. You're not going to live through those.
Can I use it to enrich myself? Then absolutely.
Yeah, sure. You go back in time. You buy the sports almanac. You come back to the present. It's only costed you 2 years, but you can also win all the money.
I think I would end up netting more years because then I'm wealthy. and can get good health care.
Oh yeah.
I can spend more of my waking life maintaining my health.
Yeah, this whole year off your life, like that implies that he has a set lifespan that he was born with. Only a
Right.
kid understands that, because a kid thinks you live to 100.
Well, you know, they used to always say, maybe they still say this, but they tell you like every cigarette you smoke takes like a minute or 5 minutes off your life. But I don't feel like that's very convincing to anybody, because people don't. Oh, that's just a couple minutes. Who gives a shit? And yeah, you're going to be old at the end. So
right.
I don't think that persuaded anybody to quit.
Yeah, I don't think maybe it wouldn't have persuaded Kid Psycho to quit.
Right.
Unless it's part of his culture or part of his heritage that everybody on his planet lives to age X.
Or like he's religious and he'll go to hell if he commits suicide. And if he's knowingly using his power.
Oh, wow. There's a whole new wrinkle.
Right. Of course, that doesn't explain all the Christians who smoke cigarettes, but
yeah. But it does make Kid Psycho, if he is a religious fanatic, even more tragic.
Well, he's been through some shit. It probably turned him into a born again.
Luckily, all the religious shit from his planet is gone now.
Yes. Is there any religion in this utopian future?
Yeah.
I know when it got turned into a dark, terrible dystopian future, it was Catholic.
Right. No, Karate Kid and Sunboy have a Christmas tree. Jim Allen is Jewish.
I don't think Christmas counts. I've never been to church a day in my life.
But you have a Christmas tree.
Every year.
Well,
Patron Saint Santa.
I think in the future, everybody's like, it's weird superhero guys and their crazy religions.
That could be, because if we're still here in 1,000 years, the only way that could possibly be the case is if we switch to a more socialist-like system, less capitalistic. And without capitalism, Christmas would disappear, because it's just a big advertising campaign.
Exactly. Yeah, like you'd be persecuted for buying Christmas presents. Like somebody gets a gift and they're like, imagine this story, this sweet child goes to school on December 28th and says, look what I got for Christmas. And everybody's like, somebody bought that for you? They bought it with, what are you? And then you're drummed out of school and your parents get rounded up for spending money on gifts.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And they're like, the police come and they're like, we heard there was a Christmas tree here. Is that true? And they kick in the door. Mm-hmm. And they're like, there's needles on the floor, pine needles. What's this little glass orb? I don't know. It's not an ornament.
I'm sure environmental scientists have quantified, like, for every year we continue on fossil fuel, it takes this many years off the end of civilization's life, and it's not persuading anybody. Back to that argument.
Yeah. I think it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute because it's an indeterminate amount of time minus some years. Like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Right. We're not good at. I forget what I forget what it is. They say humans are not good at judging the future very well. I don't know. Judging the closeness to it, or the fuck. I'm already getting tired and dumb.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of late. What is it? 2:30, 2:40 over there?
2:40.
We got started late. It's kind of late.
All right. I just can't. I don't have quite as many big words.
I feel that way too. Only when I'm talking to you at 2 a.m.
Right.
Well,
as opposed to the other people you talk to at 2 a.m.
There's only one person else I ever talk to at 2 a.m, and we're not using words.
The cat.
We're using the language of love.
Oh.
Like,
Ew.
Anyway, that's the comic. She says, Saturn Girl says, since you're in the reserves now, Kid Psycho, you are our secret weapon number one. And he says, what a great honor.
Bitch, you costed me 18 years in my life.
That's all I get. But the way it reads is kind of funny. He says, that makes me feel, and there's a little ellipsis, that makes me feel much better. I almost could read it as like sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I feel so much
Thanks
better
for
now.
nothing. Thanks a lot.
File me away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this filing cabinet with Pete Ross.
Right.
But okay, that's it. That's the end.
Maybe he only wanted to join the team so he could get close to Brainiac 5 so he could cure him of his ailment.
Yeah, I was thinking Brainiac 5 maybe wasn't even in this issue, but he is. He's talking to him at the end.
Right.
So it's not like he, like Brainiac didn't get the memo and Kid Psycho never made it on his radar or something. No, he talked to him. He was there when they told this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He just was so happy. He didn't give a fuck. Like Brainiac 5 thought he was happy. Kid Psycho was happy. So he didn't need to do anything. He's fine now.
Yeah, I think I would have given it a more contrived ending. Like they have to figure out a way of tricking him into never using his powers again. Like they have Brainiac 5 lie to him. Like, we figured out if you use your power again, it might destroy the universe. So you'll be saving us all by refraining from using your powers. And he can leave feeling prideful that he's saving the universe by...
Right, he's the greatest hero who ever lived because he
Right.
doesn't destroy the universe.
Right.
Yeah, that would be better. A trick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Legionnaires really aren't themselves if they're not tricking someone.
Well, they're not telling him that his power is taking a year of his life every time he uses it for an entire year. That was a pretty good trick.
That wasn't intentional. That wasn't a prank. Unless maybe they talked it over among themselves.
Right.
They're like, how do we fuck with this guy?
This
We have-
administrative error. I would be suing that physician if I were him.
You think that was Dr. Jimmel? Like that was early in his career?
Yeah, I actually, that the thought had crossed my mind. But I just think he's too blunt. It couldn't have been him.
Could be.
I don't think he has a good bedside manner. I think he's like, you're going to fucking die, kid. You're fucked.
Now pay me.
My vouchers.
I know you don't have any.
My credit voucher.
You don't, never mind.
I was trying to figure out if you're freezing up or if you're just falling asleep.
Like Kid Psycho has no money. He has nothing. He has whatever spaceship he was in when his parents saved him.
Yeah.
His parents saved him in like Jor-El and Lara style, shot him away in time.
Right.
But yeah, maybe they gave him a bunch of money too, so that he can live. Legion's not going to help him, that's for sure.
Jackasses.
So much for a team or a club of superpowered teens. The one who needs a club the most is rejected.
See, but that's the thing. Like, if you gave a bunch of teenagers superpowers, it would be bad news.
No, not 60s teenagers. They're so nice. They just want to have fun and help people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to see what will catch fire.
Right. Right. They're not going to do weird fraternity-like pranks that blow up cities. And
they're not going to try and get Brainiac 5 drunk and see what he does.
They're going to do dumb shit like bring dwarf stars into their headquarters.
Uh-huh.
He was probably like 36 when he did that.